What's going on, crew? I'm Captain Joe, and this is our YouTube channel, Fish Bump TV. Sure like to thank y'all for tuning in today. As per the caption, you guys are interested in learning how to fish a popping cork. Now, this is something that we use. It's in our arsenal of tools every day. I carry a lot of rods and reels, but a popping cork is a staple down here. Some people call it a rattling cork. This is an H&H. It's a titanium wire. It's got some little brass beads and glass beads. Sends out a nice little rattle or clacking sound. We got about 2 feet a leader, and today we're going to be demonstrating with a little voodoo shrimp. Now that sometimes we use live shrimp, sometimes we use an artificial. The voodoo is the one that I tend to favor the most, and we got this paired with a Penn Spinfisher 6, and that's a 3500 class. That is a really good all-around speckled trout and redfish rig. And that's what we typically are going to be using a popping cork for. Shallow water, redfish and speckled trout primarily. Now, it works in a variety of other conditions, but what we're going to be doing is just a real quick overview of how we fish a popping cork and even how we cast a popping cork. It's a little bit different, especially with live bait. With live shrimp, you want to cast a little more gently. You don't want to just snap it or whip it like you might throw a lure. You're just going to lob it out there pretty easy. And one of the main things we run into all the time is you want to remember this is a metallic swivel. It's metal, and we do not want it to make contact with the rod tip. So whenever you're fishing one of these, always want to watch out for this cork and keep it at least a foot or so from the rod tip. Never want to reel it right up into the rod tip. We've got our nice firm grip. We're going to reach our trigger finger down there and hold that line lightly. And I'm just going to make a little short cast to kind of demonstrate if we were, say, fishing this shoreline, for example. Open that bail, and it's just a nice, easy, smooth. Now, I didn't make a super long cast. That was just nice and easy. Generally, you're going to throw it up near the shoreline. Let it settle in for 5 or 10 seconds or so, and we will usually just kind of give that thing a little pop, pop, pop. Maybe move it a foot or two, and then wait. A shrimp generally just moves real slow naturally. We don't fish these things super fast. We're gonna let it settle in, kind of give it a little pop, pop, pop. Just nice and easy. Let it settle in, pop, pop, pop. Now, if on the way in, that cork goes under, resist the urge to give this thing a big, massive hook set. All you're gonna wanna do is bring this rod tip up and turn that crank rapidly. So there's no hook set involved with this typically, other than just bringing the rod tip up a little bit and turning that crank rapidly. That'll take up the slack. There's a couple reasons we do that. For one, with a popping cork, if you give it a super aggressive hook set, the cork could just come flying out of the water, come flying back at you. It could also, if you pull it really, really hard and some of your live shrimp is still left on there, it would pull the shrimp off the hook. And sometimes the fish hasn't got the bait fully in his mouth, and if you pull it out of the strike zone, you might miss that fish. So generally, we like to see that cork go fully under, sometimes even for a count of 1 or 2, and then all you're gonna do is bring that rod tip up and turn that crank rapidly till you feel some weight. And if there's a fish there, then you proceed to fight that fish to the boat. So we're gonna bring it in nice and easy. Again, one of the main things to remember is you never wanna make contact with this metallic part with the end of the rod tip. You always want at least a foot or so of that thing hanging down. That's going to keep from damaging the rod. It's just going to make it easier for you to cast. Again, we got about our 2 foot a leader. We got our shrimp, and I'm going to demonstrate. It's just a very gentle, very easy cast. You don't want to snap or whip this thing at all. Let the rings kind of dissipate a little bit. We're going to give this thing a couple little pops and then a little pause. Going to give it a couple little pops and a little pause. Now, you always want to be watching that cork. We always joke on the boat, it's funny, whenever you're watching somebody else's cork, it seems, or a pelican flies over, or the blue angels, or you see something, you'll turn around and your cork will be gone. I always tell people, when in doubt, just reel. So if you look around and you're not sure where your cork is and it might be under, just go ahead and turn that crank rapidly. That'll pick up all the slack. Sometimes our saltwater fish will even pick up the bait and swim toward the boat. So that's why reeling up the slack is going to be a lot better than just giving this thing a big old yank or a big old hook set. So it's really pretty easy to fish these guys. Just remember a real easy cast. Let the rings kind of settle down once the cork has hit the water. Just give it a couple little pops and let it pause, a couple little pops and let it pause. And a very effective tool in our arsenal down here on the Gulf Coast. And this is something you're going to find on our boat all the time. I always have 2 or 3 of these popping corks rigged up. And you know what, guys, I hope that was helpful. I always, as always, appreciate you guys watching the channel. It's brand new. We're kind of figuring this thing out. Of course, the subscriptions are always super helpful. We're just getting this thing off the ground. And hopefully If you guys have some input or some suggestions, I would love to hear the comments and let me know what we could do to help y'all become better anglers, provide more information to make the trip more enjoyable for y'all. So hey, once again, Captain Joe here with Island Marine Charters and Fish Bump TV, and we will be catching y'all next time out.